There is a war being fought every day, not with guns, not with fists, but with attention. The world is constantly demanding you to react, respond, perform, explain, compare, improve yourself. You're under siege, not by bullets, but by distractions. Notifications, opinions, social pressure, mindless chatter, and fake connections, all designed to keep you looking out instead of looking in. And if you're not deliberate, if you're not disciplined, you'll spend your entire life dancing for the approval of people who wouldn't notice if you fell. But here's the truth that most won't say. Power is built in silence. Greatness is built when you go ghost. While the average man screams for attention, the dangerous one disappears and builds something deadly in private. He sharpens his craft when no one's watching. He transforms his mind in silence. He's mind in silence. He outgrows the crowd by leaving it. And when he returns, he doesn't talk. He shows up different, colder, smarter, unshakable, focused. If you truly want your life to change, you have to make a brutal decision to cut the noise and turn inward, to stop asking, begging, hoping, and start commanding your energy. Focus is not optional. It's not a lifestyle tip. It is the single most aggressive tool of transformation you'll ever have. But it requires solitude. It demands silence. Because only when you stop explaining yourself to the world can you finally hear the man you were born to become. You must become obsessed with your own path, not distracted by what they're doing, not eager for applause, not thirsty for validation. For validation, your silence will confuse them. Your distance will offend them. Good, let it. That's how you know you're evolving. You don't owe the world access to your transformation. You owe yourself the discipline to finish what you started without needing a single cheer. And if you do this right, if you focus on yourself with unwavering violence, if you stay silent long enough for the world to forget your name, when you come back, they won't recognize you. They'll feel your presence before you speak. They'll respect the man who didn't just survive the silence. He turned it into a kingdom. So how do you begin? Here are 5 brutally aggressive, deeply transformative strategies to help you focus on yourself, stay silent, and witness your entire life evolve. 1. Cut the noise and guard your mental space. Extended Favik. If you don't control what enters your mind, you don't control your life. Period. The most dangerous thing about today's world isn't just a distraction. It's the illusion that they're harmless. Every reel you scroll past, every pointless conversation you entertain, every toxic voice you let linger in your ear, that's not just wasted time. That's mental corruption. That's spiritual erosion. That's focus theft. The reason you don't feel powerful, driven, or clear isn't because you're broken. It's because you've been drowned in noise for so long, you forgot what your own voice sounds like. We live in a world that profits from your confusion. Social media feeds don't want your focus. They want your addiction. The news doesn't want to inform you. It wants to inflame you. Your so-called friends don't want you to rise. They want you to stay predictable, average, and available for gossip and mediocrity. And every single day you don't guard your mental space, you let those forces chip away at your strength, One distraction at a time, one emotional reaction at a time, 1 minute of aimless scrolling at a time, until your potential is buried under an avalanche of noise. If you want to be elite, if you want to become dangerous, focused, and untouchable, you have to become a savage about your environment. You must treat your mental space like a sacred battlefield, because that's what it is. You don't owe your attention to anyone, not your phone, not your group chat, not the news cycle, not your past. If it doesn't push you forward, it's pulling you backward. If it doesn't build your mind, it's breaking it down. That's the law. So what do? You cut the noise like your future depends on it, because it does. You wake up and decide. No more empty stimulation, no more mindless consumption, no more emotional clutter. Instead, you build mental rituals that protect your power. Silence in the morning, intentional focus blocks during the day, complete disconnection in the evening. You surround yourself with people who speak growth, not gossip. You unfollow anything that doesn't serve your goals. You turn solitude into your sanctuary, not because you're antisocial, but because you're on a mission. Guarding your mental space also means guarding your inner voice. If the voice in your head is constantly anxious, overwhelmed, or negative, that's not you talking. That's programming. From years of exposure to garbage, to fix it, you need to unplug and reprogram with discipline, with silence, with content that sharpens you, not numbs you, with books, not dopamine feeds, with strategy, not randomness. And when people start calling you distant, cold, obsessed, or even arrogant, let them talk, because you're not here to be liked. You're here to evolve. You're here to build. You're here to create a life so sharp, so focused, so elevated that the noise doesn't even recognize you anymore. This is war. And if you're not fighting for your mind, you're losing it. 2, disappear from the crowd and build in the dark. Sometimes the greatest thing you can do for your future is to vanish, not in weakness, not in fear, but in absolute control. In a world obsessed with validation, approval, and broadcasting every move for attention, disappearing is a power move. It's not retreat. It's repositioning. It's not hiding. It's sharpening your weapons where nobody can see. Because the crowd doesn't build legend. The crowd distracts them, tames them, neutralizes them. If you want to become unstoppable, if you want to build something the world has never seen, you need to go ghost and grind where no one's clapping. When you disappear from the noise, the gossip, the drama, the endless comparison, something insane starts to happen. You finally hear yourself again. Your instincts get louder. Your vision gets clearer. Your values get solid. You stop being tossed around by every trend and you start digging into something unshakable, your purpose. You don't need their applause. You don't need their permission. You don't even need them to understand you. Because you're not building for approval. You're building for domination. The truth is, most people won't understand your silence. That's fine. They're not supposed to. They'll assume you're lost. They'll assume you're weak. But that's because they only understand power when it's loud. What they don't know is that real power is built in the dark, away from eyes, away from distractions. While they're watching each other, you're rewriting your future. Building in the dark means waking up before the world does and stacking wins while everyone else still asleep in their comfort. It means showing up to the gym when no one's watching. It means studying when no one's grading you. It means sacrificing every moment of comfort that doesn't align with your higher self. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to explain. You hustle, because soon your results will speak so loudly, they'll shatter the silence you trained in. People fear the man who vanishes and returns transformed because they didn't see the struggle. They didn't witness the inner war. All they see now is the precision, the power, the calm fury of someone who mastered themselves without asking for attention. Disappearing gives you leverage. You become unpredictable. You become untouchable. You become someone they can't categorize, control, or count out. So stop feeding the world with pieces of your potential. Starve the noise. Starve the need to be seen. Disappear, grind, and come back unrecognizable. 3, starve the ego, feed the discipline. This is where the game shifts. This is where you separate yourself from 99% of the world. Because most people wake up every day and serve their ego, not their discipline. They chase the dopamine. They chase likes, followers, admiration. They live for attention instead of execution. But if you want to change your life, if you want power that can't be taken from you, then you must starve the ego until it's solid and feed the discipline until it screams with strength. The ego wants comfort. It wants safety. It wants to be admired without work, praised without sweat. The ego will lie to you, convince you that you've done enough when you barely scratch the surface. It will whisper in your ear that rest is deserved even though the mountain hasn't moved. And if you feed it, you become soft. You become blind. You become the kind of person who settles for dreams in their mind instead of results in real life. But discipline is the killer of mediocrity. Discipline shows up when it's raining, when you're tired, when no one claps, when everything in you screams to quit. Discipline doesn't care about applause. It doesn't need motivation. It's the silent warrior inside you that demands excellence from you even when no one else is watching. When you wake up and make the decision to ignore the ego, to not seek validation, to not fall for your own hype, you gain something rare. Control. You become someone who chooses suffering over softness, growth over glory, work over word. You don't need to tell the world what you're doing. You're too busy doing it. That's power. That's where your life changes. Not in moments of inspiration, but in relentless, disciplined execution every single day, whether you feel like it or not. Feeding the discipline means doing the hard things until they become normal. It means creating routines that terrify weakness. It means saying no to temptation even when it's easy to say yes. You train your mind to obey your mission and not your moods. And once your discipline becomes automatic, You become dangerous. You become the kind of person who wins in silence and shocks the world with results. So silence the ego. Let it die of starvation. Let it whine. Let it wither. And while it does, you feed the discipline like it's the only thing that matters, because it is. In a world full of dreamers, be the disciplined beast who executes without mercy. 4. Train in isolation until silence becomes strength. This is the phase where most people quit. This is the territory of the uncommon, because training in isolation is not about aesthetics, it's about internal war. It's about stepping into the darkness of solitude, not because you're weak or unwanted, but because you made a ruthless decision to build a version of yourself in private that the world won't recognize when you return. You are no longer performing for applause. You are training for war, alone. See, the weak need a crowd. They need validation. They need noise. They need people to see what they're doing so they feel like it matters. But you're not here to be seen. You're here to be forged. And the forge doesn't make noise. It burns in silence. It shapes steel when no one watches. And that's what you're doing. Becoming steel in secret. In isolation, you confront your weaknesses. You meet your excuses head on. There's no one to blame. No one to impress. Just you, your potential, and the pressure. That pressure will either crush you or create something unstoppable. And if you train through it, if you stay when others will run, you'll build something inside of you no one can take. A mind that does not flinch, a focus that cannot be shaken, and a confidence born from pain. Training in silence rewires you. You stop needing approval. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop chasing hype and start building habits. You rise early, not because someone's watching, but because you demand it of yourself. You show up again and again because your standard is not based on praise, it's based on purpose. It's based on purpose. This strategy is the graveyard of the average and the birthplace of the legendary, because when you return from that silence after months, maybe years of disappearing to work on yourself, you don't walk back in the same. You walk in like a storm. People will look at you and wonder where you've been, but they won't understand that you've been dying and resurrecting yourself every day in the silence they feared to enter. So isolate, lock the door, kill distractions, sit in the discomfort of being unseen, and use that space to build a mind so sharp, a heart so driven, a vision so brutal that when the noise returns, it can't touch you. Because silence didn't break you, it built. 5. Return so transformed that they can't look you in the eye when the time comes. And it will. You step back into the world, not to explain yourself, not to justify the side, not to prove a single damn thing, but to dominate in ways they never saw coming. You don't owe them words. You owe them results. You owe them the shockwave of your transformation. You owe them silence followed by the storm. This final strategy is not about revenge. It's not about showing off. It's about stepping into your power so unapologetically, so fearlessly that those who once underestimated you can't even maintain eye contact anymore. They feel the weight of who you become, and it rattles them. Not because you said anything, but because you become something they no longer recognize. Something they can't control, can't predict, and can't diminish. When you return from the darkness after training in silence, after disappearing the focus, after starving your ego and building something real, they'll all come back, curious, confused, some still doubting, but none of that matters anymore because you didn't come back for them. You came back for the life you were born to own. You came back for the mission, the calling, the execution of everything you prepared for in secret. And here's the truth. The ones who once laughed at you, they'll look away first. They'll feel your presence before you speak. Because energy doesn't lie. Discipline leaves evidence, and your new aura, it's not loud. It doesn't beg, it just commands. You'll walk into rooms and change the temperature without a word. You'll make those who settle feel uneasy just by standing next to them. You'll embody a power forged in the pain they never had the guts to endure. And while they were out seeking followers, likes, approval, you were building the kind of unshakable identity that turns men into legends. This strategy is your emergence, your reintroduction. But not as the version they once knew. You come back untouchable, not because of fame or flag, but because of fortitude. Because when life gave you every reason to quit, you trained in the shadows and returned as a force they can't comprehend. And when they try to talk to you, distract you, invite you back into small talk, petty drama, or weak energy, you won't even flinch. You'll smile, you'll nod, and you'll walk right past them like the ghost from a life you already buried. Because the real flex isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming so right with yourself that they no longer even matter. What you've learned through these 5 powerful strategies is more than just a way of living. It's a full-scale transformation of how you show up in the world. You've unlocked the method to reshape your reality, to dominate your environment, to rise from the ashes of silence stronger, more focused, and more dangerous than ever before. You see, the truth is simple. The world doesn't give you space to grow. It makes you earn it. And how do you earn it? Through silence, through focus, through relentless self-discipline, through the kind of work that's invisible to everyone around you, but screams results that no one can ignore. You've learned to cut the noise. You've learned to cut the noise, the distractions, the opinions, the negativity that would otherwise drown out your clarity. Up with it. You've trained yourself to disappear when necessary, not for the sake of hiding, but for creating. Every moment of isolation was a moment of focus. Every second spent away from the crowd was a moment spent on your craft, your vision, your life. And by the time the world catches up to you, you'll have already changed the game. You understand now that to starve the ego means to feed your discipline, your resilience, and your hunger for growth. The ego thrives on attention, validation, and praise. But you've learned to be hungry for the work itself. You've learned to celebrate progress in private because that's where the real victories lie. Real success doesn't need applause. Real success is earned in the quiet hours when no one's watching, when no one believes in you, when it's just you and your vision. And finally, the last lesson, when you come back, you will be so transformed, they won't even recognize you. Those who doubted you, laughed at you, thought you quit. They will look away because your presence will be more than they can handle. Not because you've changed for them, but because you've changed for you. You become so powerful, so unstoppable that they won't be able to comprehend it. You won't have to explain yourself. You won't have to justify your grind. Your actions will speak louder than anything they could ever say. By focusing on yourself, staying silent, and making the decision to become the best version of you. Without apologies, without explanations, you unlock a life that others can't even dream of. And when the time comes for you to re-enter the world, it won't be with a whisper, but with the roar of someone who knows exactly who they are and where they're going. So let the world laugh, let them doubt, let them look the other way. Because in the end, the one who masters silence, who stays focused, and who becomes their own power, that person will always rise above. And they'll watch, helpless, as you conquer the life you once dreamed of.